Right now, if you go to Dollar Tree, they have all kinds of these egg signs, all kinds of different sizes of Easter eggs. Look at all of these signs. And this is a perfect time to get your Easter crafts done. And I've got 5 different crafts that I'm going to share with you right now.
It all just goes away. The things I plan to say, oh baby.
Okay, the first craft is super easy. I'm going to take one of these Easter egg wood cutouts from Dollar Tree and 2 of the tiles. Now these tiles are raised, so they have this really pretty pattern that is raised. But this Easter egg is a little bit larger, so it's going to take 2 of the tiles to cover the egg. And I just open up the tiles and then place them onto the egg. So the first tile, I want to make sure and use most of the tile. And then I'm going to take the second tile and put it up really close to the first one because I want to make this look like it's one solid piece. Now these tiles do have a self-adhesive backing, but the problem is that once you cut out the tile, the adhesive backing is actually going to separate from the front because it's in 2 parts. But I'm going to go ahead and cut out the tiles so that they are closer to the shape of the egg. Now I do need to hold them in place, otherwise that tile part is going to come off. But the tiles are pretty flimsy, so it is easy to keep them in line with the egg. Can you see the top piece is separate from the adhesive part? So I'm just going to use some Dollar Tree wood glue and I'm going to secure the tile part to the adhesive part. And then I'm going to set it off to dry. Now once it's dry, I'm going to take some chalk paint and I'm going to use Waverly chalk paint in sheepskin. I find that the chalk paint works really good for projects like this because it only takes 1 coat of paint. So I am going to paint the entire tile with the sheepskin paint first. And once it's dry, I'm going to come back with another color. And this is kind of an aqua color. I cannot remember the name of it, but I'm going to take one of these little cheap chip paint brushes. And all I'm going to do is brush that aqua paint over the tile. Now, the raised portions of the tile, it's going to pick up the paint. And then it's easy to see the design just kind of appear right before your eyes. It's kind of like magic. So I went ahead with that aqua paint and made sure to paint all of the raised edges of the tiles. And then I went back over them just a little bit more because I really want to see that aqua on that sheepskin color. And then I decided to make a bow. Now I have to tell you, I am horrible with bows. This is one area of crafting that I really need to work on. So if you are skilled at bow making, please be kind. I know I am not very good with bows at all, but you know what they say, fake it till you make it, right? So I'm just going to take different pieces of ribbon that I have and I'm going to put that onto my egg. I wanted this to kind of look like a banner type of a ribbon, so I just kind of scrunched it in the center as I applied the hot glue. And then I took some different sizes of ribbons and cut them down and just kind of stacked them on top of each other. And I found a lot of these ribbons at the Dollar Tree. Now, once I had enough of the ribbons together, then I took a piece of jute twine and I just tied a knot around the center of the ribbons that I had stacked up on top of each other. And then I secured them on top of the first piece of ribbon that I had already glued down. I know, it's not a great bow, but it is different, and I do like to be different. Now for the raised portion of the bow, I took pieces of ribbon and using some hot glue, I made some loops. Next, I secured the loops on top of my egg. And I wanted this egg to look kind of rustic. I didn't want it to look perfect. So my way of doing bows actually fit this project really well. And one thing that I find when I'm making ribbons or trying to make ribbons and do different things like this, if I do it in single pieces, it's a little bit easier. And then I can just keep adding more to my bow. And then I made a tiny loop and I just secured that in between the 4 loops that I had already placed. And here is my finished tile Easter egg using a Dollar Tree sign. These egg signs are so much fun to work with. There's so many options that you can do with them. And this is a very simple project that you can do in probably about a half an hour. So I figured I would start with a very simple project first, not too many working pieces here, unless you count the bow. All right, so I have another one of the larger egg signs, and I'm not going to be using that hanger, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And I will be using the back of the sign, just like I did on the other one. Now I don't want to see that hanger hole, so I am going to use some painter's caulk and go ahead and fill that in. But if you don't have that, you can use spackle or whatever you want. Then I took some burnt umber paint and I painted the entire egg with that burnt umber paint. And I found the idea for this egg when I was looking on Pinterest. Pinterest has some really great different Easter decoration DIY ideas. And I saw this egg and I was like, oh my goodness, that is so pretty. I really want to make something like that I can hang up in my home. So once the burnt umber paint was dry, then I took some frog tape and I sectioned off parts of the egg. Now I really like the frog tape better than painter's tape because I just painted this burnt umber paint on and allowed it to dry, but I can go ahead and put that frog tape right on top of it and I don't have to worry that it's going to peel up the paint. Next, I took some Waverly chalk paint and celery and I painted the bottom portion of the egg. My egg is basically broken up into 3 parts right now. And the bottom part is going to be celery, which is like a light sage green. And it looks like a really pretty spring color. Next, I had this pink chalk paint and I painted the top section of the egg with the pink paint. Now I did allow both of those paint colors to fully dry before I removed the frog tape. So now I need to paint the center. So again, I'm going to use that frog tape and I'm going to tape off the center section of the egg. And even though I just painted the pink and the green, again, it will not peel off, which is wonderful. Now I have a little bit of my sheepskin chalk paint left, so I'm going to go ahead and use sheepskin in the center. And sheepskin is kind of a creamy ivory color. And once I was done painting it, I did not allow it to dry. I went ahead and removed the tape while the paint was wet. So I was just being really careful to make sure I didn't get any of that cream colored paint on the other colors. And I think you can see how nice and crisp the lines are with this frog tape. You don't get bleed through, and this is my favorite painter's tape to use when I'm doing craft projects like this. The tape adheres really well, but as you can see, it doesn't remove any of the paint. Now, once the cream colored portion of the egg was dry, I took some folk art wax and put it onto a fan brush and then just started, without any rhyme or reason, applying some of that all over this egg. I wanted to have a little bit of definition between the three different colors, so I just basically put lines all over the egg. And then I took a different type of paintbrush and I just kind of added a little bit of burnt umber to it. Now I want this to look old and aged. That's why I'm adding all of these different colors. And I did add the burnt umber paint all around the outside of the egg as well. And then I wanted to add just a little bit of something extra. So I took that burnt umber paint and I added some water, and using a paintbrush, I just speckled the egg. This is a really fun technique to add some character to your piece and to make it look older. Now, once all of that was dry, it was time to do the adornments or my embellishments for my egg. And I had this ribbon that I think I got this at Hobby Lobby, I can't remember. And I just put that ribbon in the center of the cream color. And then I secured it onto the back of the egg. And I really wanted to have some layers with this egg. So I took some Dollar Tree crocheted ribbon that's in the cream color, and I put that in the center of the first piece of ribbon. Now this ribbon is really nice because it has like a frayed edge. So I want to, again, make a bow, but just like before in the first project, I am not great at making bows. So this is going to be more of a primitive bow. And I wanted a little bit more fraying around the edges. So I used my Cricut weeding tool and just removed some of the material so I can have a little bit more fraying around the edges. And next, I just randomly glued those in place on the side of the egg. Now I'm starting my bow between the cream and the pink, which will be the top of the egg. And like I said, I'm just randomly putting these pieces onto my egg. And next I found this rope on Amazon, and this stuff is fun. It's kind of like the yacht rope that you can find at the Dollar Tree. So it's really thick. So I just unwound it. And next I just opened up the little pieces of the material after tying a knot into the top of it. And then I just randomly glued those in place onto my primitive bow. And as you can see, I've actually added in a little bit of greenery. So those are just stems that I've had from other projects. I just tucked little pieces of greenery in between the first ribbon that I put on this egg. But I do really like this rope when it's all opened up and it's kind of wavy. Those little pieces really give a lot of texture to my decoration. And then I have some more loops that I've glued together. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those in place for my fake bow. And then for the top of my fake bow, I'm just going to add a big button. I had this white button. I thought it would look really pretty. And that's it. So I think you can see all of the different pieces of ribbon that I used. Just, there's really no rhyme or reason. I just have an idea of what kind of a bow that I want. And again, it's more of a primitive bow, but I really like how this turned out. And actually, this is hanging up on my front door right now. All right, now we have a smaller Easter egg from the Dollar Tree, but what I really liked about these Easter eggs is that metal bunny. And I do want to use that metal bunny for another project, so I'm gonna go ahead and take him off. So I just used a tool to carefully remove the metal bunny from the Easter egg. And then I took some white chalk paint and painted the entire egg white. I find that by having a base coat like this for all of these projects, it makes it a lot faster, and the projects to me just look really nice. Now, once my egg was all dry, I had this paper, and I really like this spring pattern. I think it's really pretty. And what I'm going to do is secure that to the egg. Now, it's not going to cover the entire egg, and that's okay. I'm going to leave that original white color showing through the bottom, but I want to cover most of this egg with that paper. So I'm just using some Mod Podge. This is a matte finish, and I'm painting that all over the top of the egg of where this paper is going to go. And then I just secure the paper onto the egg. And Mod Podge dries really quickly, so it doesn't take very long for that paper to be secured to the project. Now, I did go ahead and cut out a lot of that extra paper. And then I just bent the edges around the egg itself. I did go ahead and trim off a lot of the excess, but I was really careful to make sure I didn't cut any of that paper that could potentially be where it needs to be on the egg. So I did leave a little bit of a lip around the edges. And then using some Dollar Tree sandpaper, I just sanded the edges of the egg where the paper is laying. And that will help to remove the little excess paper that's around the edges. Now I did want to have something to like show the difference between the paper and the white portion. So I used some craft glue to carefully go right on the edge of the paper and the paint. Then I took some Dollar Tree trim, which is like little half beads, and I secured that in between the white paint and the paper. Next, I took a Dollar Tree tumbling tower block and secured that with hot glue onto the egg. And then I just took a whole bunch of random pieces of floral stems and glued them in place around that tumbling tower block. And you might be wondering why I have that tumbling tower block there and then I'm gluing everything around it. Don't worry, I'm going to show that step to you in just a moment. But again, this is why I never get rid of any of the pieces, the little stems or leftovers from flowers that I have, because I know that I will be able to use them in a new project. And while you're watching me create some awesome Easter crafts, if you haven't done so already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and then hit the bell notification. That way you'll be alerted every time I have a new video coming out. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Now that bunny that I removed earlier, I want to make him look like a chocolate bunny. So I am painting this metal rabbit with burnt umber paint. Now if you have burnt umber chalk paint, you can probably get by with one coat of paint, but because I was just using acrylic paint, it did take 3 coats to make it look like a... And once my bunny was dry, I did put a little bit of hot glue onto my tumbling tower block. Took my cute little chocolate bunny and secured him in place onto the block. Now you can see why I used the tumbling tower block. I wanted the bunny to be on top of the flowers. And I did decide to go ahead and add a little tiny jute bow to the top of my egg. Now that kind of bow I can make. And this is the finished piece. Oh my goodness, I love how this turned out. This is such a pretty egg, and actually, I think I showed you it was very easy to do. And now I have one of those larger everybody welcome signs, and again, I'm going to be using the back. So I am starting off with some sheepskin chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the entire egg with the sheepskin chalk paint. And while my egg was drying, I went ahead and cut out some round shapes using cardboard. Now you might be wondering what I'm going to be making with this, but this egg is going to be a bunny. Yes, a bunny. It is going to be so cute. So once I had the circle cut out on the cardboard and I was happy with the size, I went ahead and cut out another one. I want them to match because these are going to be the feet for my bunny rabbit. And next, using some Dollar Tree eggs, I painted them with the sheepskin paint as well. These are going to go onto the feet of the bunny rabbit. So I painted 2 of the eggs with the sheepskin chalk paint. And while that paint was still wet, I took a little bit of the folk art wax and I just added a little bit of wax to each of the eggs. The paint is still wet, so this will be really easy to blend. I just want to give a little bit of definition and I don't want it to be one solid color. And then I had these half beads, so I went ahead and painted them with a little bit of that sheepskin paint as well. Now I picked up this material at the Dollar Tree too, and yes, it was $1.25. So I actually got 2 packages of this material, and the 2 packages that I got, they weren't exactly the same color. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be using the same color for both of the feet. And I'm going to cut out 4 pieces of the material. Now I'm going to be using that material to cover the cardboard. So the material had to be larger than the cardboard, and then I used my hot glue gun and secured the material in place. I did go ahead and wrap the excess material around to the front or the back, however you want to look at it, of the cardboard round. Now this is a really fun way to give something a material look without having to sew it. I am not a seamstress. My sewing machine is my glue gun. And once I had that material on the one side, I did go ahead and use my hot glue gun around the front of the cardboard, and I put the other piece of the material on top. Now, once my hot glue had time to set up, I did go ahead and cut off all of the excess material. Now, for this material, I'm not going to secure the remnants to the back because the part that I'm cutting off is just the excess, and I do want to see a little bit of an edge between the material because the next step that I'm going to do is fray around that front edge. And I'm going to use my Cricut weeding tool again because that works really well to remove a little bit of the excess material, and it makes it look older and frayed. Now I'm going to repeat this process for making the bunny ears as well. And I'm not going to show you the entire thing because you saw how I did this with the bunny feet. But I went ahead and used some more cardboard to make the pattern for the bunny ears, and then I cut them out. Now what I enjoy about using cardboard as a pattern is it's pretty much readily available and it's free. So if I don't like how something turns out, I can simply go get another piece of cardboard and cut out a new pattern. I'm pretty happy with those bunny ears. So I did the same process with the material. I covered the back and then I used my hot glue gun around the front edge and secured another piece of the material. And I think you can see that this color material is a little bit different than the back color. It's the same pattern, but the colors were not quite the same, which for this project I think actually worked pretty well. Now this bunny ear, you can see it's kind of got a bend to it because I want the bunny ear to be bent over a little bit. So I just go ahead and secure that material to the front of my bunny ear. And then once it was dry, I cut away the excess. Now I need to have the pink section of my bunny ears, so I have this material. I believe this was an old t-shirt, and I'm just going to fold it down and use my hot glue gun so that it will be the center portion of the bunny ear. Again, no sewing was done at all for this project. It was all hot glue and cardboard, with the exception of the egg cutout from the Dollar Tree, which is the body of the bunny. And while my glue is drying, I just wanted to see the size of the center portion of the ear. And then I did trim it down a little bit. And once I was happy with that, I added some more glue to the entire length of the center part of the ear, which is the pink material. And then I just glued it in place onto the bunny ear. So here are my bunny feet, and I'm going to go ahead and secure the Dollar Tree eggs to the bunny feet. And next I'm going to take 3 of the half beads that I painted with the sheepskin paint, and I'm going to put 3 beads on top of each of my bunny feet. The bead in the center is a little bit higher, and then I just put 1 bead on either side of that a little bit lower. And next I laid out the bunny feet onto the egg, which I did go ahead and distress with a little bit of wax as well. And then I glued the bunny feet to the egg. Pretty cute. Next, I took the bunny ears and I glued them to the top of the egg. And then I used some remnant pieces of that material and I just hot glued them around the ears and the top of the egg because you guessed it, this is going to be my bow. And then using just random pieces of that rope that I got from Amazon and some other ribbon, I just made a primitive bow and then added some pieces of unwound jute twine. I really like the waviness to it. I think it looks really pretty. But I did decide I did want my bunny to have a bow, so I'm going to attempt to make a bow with my frayed edge ribbon. So I cut a piece of the ribbon off, and then using some of that rope that I got from Amazon, I tied a knot around in between the center of the folded ribbon. And I made a loop with that ribbon, and then I cut it in half. And I wanted it to have kind of a, wavy edge. So I cut off a portion of one side with both pieces of the loop. And I glued those down with hot glue to the center of all of the messy ribbon that I have underneath where the bow will be. There is my primitive bow for my bunny, but now he needs a face. So I took one more of those half beads and I glued it into the center. That is going to be his nose. And then using a little bit of pink acrylic paint, I wanted to make some little rosy cheeks on either side of the nose. And then using a Sharpie marker, I just drew some eyes. I could have done this with paint, but I find that using just a Sharpie marker like this is a lot easier, and I have a little bit more control over the shape that I'm drawing. So just two little black circles, those are his eyes. And then I did take a little bit of white acrylic paint just to add like a catch light to each of his eyes. And next I took a little bit of craft glue and just put that on the side of the nose. So I did 2 dots of craft glue on each side of the nose. And then I used some unwound jute twine, and these are the bunny's whiskers. And I really like the craft glue for doing projects like this because I want it to dry clear. And if I used my hot glue gun, you would see the hot glue. But with this craft glue, you don't see it. And there is my Easter bunny. Oh my goodness, he's so cute. Here is my finished bunny rabbit. This was a really fun project, really easy. It did take a little bit of work. There's a lot of steps involved, but see how you can take something from the Dollar Tree that you hang on the wall and turn it into a really great piece for your holiday decorating. All right, I've got another one of those eggs with a metal bunny, and of course I'm going to remove that bunny because I can use him for another project. I do like the metal adornments that the Dollar Tree puts on some of their signs because they're great pieces to use in upcoming projects. And then I took a little bit of the painter's caulk and filled in that hole. And again, I'm going to be using the back of the sign because it's a nice smooth surface. So I'm going to be taking some of this Waverly Steel chalk paint and I'm going to paint the entire egg with that paint. But I want this egg to look a little bit older and I really want to have some depth to it. So after I had a coat of that gray paint all over the egg, I did take some black acrylic paint from the Dollar Tree and I added that to the egg as well. So the gray is still wet when I'm putting on this black paint, and I'm just going to blend the paints together. And I think you can see there is definitely a lot of dimension by doing the painting like this. This is one thing that I really enjoy, is adding different colors of the paint to give a little bit of something extra to a project. And once that was dry, I took some white chalk paint and I lightly brushed that all over the egg. And I did kind of use like a U type stroke going across the egg because I want to see all of the different colors, but I want to make this egg look like it has some roundness to it. And I found that by adding a little bit of an upstroke, it does make the egg look a little bit rounder. And the white gives a little bit of shading to the egg as well. And next I took some of the floral pieces that I like to save and I just arranged them onto the center portion of the egg. I really like how that green stands out against the white. I think it's very pretty. And once I had enough of those greenery pieces, I went ahead and secured them onto the egg. And then I wanted to add a little bit of pink as a pop of color. So I added in a couple of these silk roses. And then some fake baby's breath that I did get from the Dollar Tree. And I really like this. It's like a festive Easter bouquet on top of an egg. Now, once I was happy with that, I took my Amazon rope again, and what I'm going to be doing is making this almost look like a basket on the bottom. So I'm just going to secure that rope right below the flowers. Now, I thought about going all the way down to the bottom, but I decided I didn't want the entire bottom half of the egg to be rope. So I just did one layer of the rope at a time, and I did make sure to leave probably about 6 inches on either side. Right now, I'm just focusing on making the basket portion of this decoration. So I believe in the end I had 6 pieces of the rope. And once the hot glue was dry, I flipped it over and I secured each piece of the rope to the back of the sign. Now, if I wanted to get really fancy, I could have painted the back of all of my signs, but I'm just making these for myself, so I decided that wasn't that big of a deal. Now, once that hot glue was dry on the back, I did go ahead and remove the excess pieces of the rope. And you know I'm going to save them because I promise there is something I can use those little pieces for in the future. So there is my Easter decoration so far. And then I took some of those half wooden beads again. I did paint them with a little bit of white chalk paint. And I started by placing one bead in the center, and then I placed beads on either side, trying to keep them equal distances apart on the sign. And then I took some of that Amazon rope again and untwisted it to make a bow. Now this kind of bow I can make. I added a little bit of hot glue and put the bow onto the hot glue on the rope. And that is my final sign. This is the end result. I think it looks really pretty, and I have an Easter egg with flowers all over it. I love how this turned out. So these are all of the different Easter eggs that I got at the Dollar Tree and were able to create some really fun Easter decorations. I was able to do all of these in 2 days. They were so easy to make. So go to Dollar Tree, get some of these eggs, and get crafting.